Before we begin, I'd just like to mention that while I will try to cover most of the important rules of the game, this will not be a fully comprehensive tutorial but is rather meant to introduce the most important aspects for you to be able to start a game as soon as possible. The following tutorial utilizes clips recorded from the PC version of the base game of Civilization VI, and the game was developed by Firaxis Games and published by 2K. Civilization VI is a turn-based 4X grand strategy game during which you'll play as a civilization, trying to explore and expand across the world, train military units to defend your cities and take over others, research technologies and cultural advancements that provide new functions, create relationships with other civilizations through diplomacy, and so on. The game is played in a series of turns which starts during the ancient era, where you fight and build with nothing but sticks and stones, and may progress towards the current information era, where technology has become advanced and weapons can wipe out the entire planet. You can check the current era by hovering your cursor over these dots on the lower right side of the screen. Each turn, you'll perform actions to progress your civilization in different aspects. Once you've completed all the actions you'd like to do, you can press here on the lower right side of the screen to end your turn, or by pressing Shift-Enter on your keyboard. Here, on the right side of the screen, you also find notifications for events or things that might need tending to. You can check on notifications to immediately go to the relevant location or window, and you can right-click them as well to dismiss them. The game ends either when a player achieves a victory condition or a set number of turns have been completed. The goal in Civilization VI is to be the first player to achieve one of 4 victory conditions. When in-game, you can click this icon on the upper right side of the screen to see the victory conditions, and your current standing for each in relation to other civilizations that you've already met. Here, you'll also find tabs for each victory condition to see a more detailed breakdown of their criteria. A science victory requires you to accomplish 3 specific milestones in the game as listed here. Culture victory is achieved when you've garnered a specific number of tourists by creating culturally relevant cities. Domination victory is achieved when you've taken control of all other civilizations' capitals. Capitals are the primary cities of civilizations marked with this star icon. This victory requires a strong military force to achieve. A religion victory requires you to create a religion and have it as the dominant religion for all civilizations. If none of the mentioned victory conditions were met by the end of a specific number of turns, in this case 500 turns as indicated here on the upper right side of the screen, the winner will be the civilization with the highest score. A civilization score is determined by how well they've done on the different relevant achievements indicated here. I'll try to expand on these victory conditions further later when they become relevant. At the start of the game, you'll be provided with 1 settler unit and 1 military unit. We'll explain military units a bit later and focus on the settler for now. Settlers are used to found cities where you can construct buildings that provide different functions and train more military units as well. The world in Civilization VI is presented in a hexagonal grid, with each hex representing a tile with its own unique stats, which you can see by hovering your cursor over them. By clicking on the Map Options button on the lower left side of the screen and ticking Show Yield Icons, we'll be able to better see which resources are available in each tile. When choosing a location to found a city, it's important to take note of the resources on and around the tile, as these resources can dictate how fast your city and civilization will grow and how fast you can build stuff as well. The corn icons represent food. This is used to grow and maintain your population, which we will explain further in a bit. Gear icons, on the other hand, represent production that is used to construct buildings and units. By clicking on a city, here at the bottom of the screen, we'll see a summary of the important statistics of the city, including its different incomes. And by hovering our cursor over these incomes, we can see where these numbers are coming from. Food and production differ from other main resources in that they are city-specific, meaning each city will produce and spend its own and will not share them with your other cities. On the upper left side of the screen, you'll find 4 of the other main resources of the game. They differ from food and production in that these resources are pulled together and shared between all of your cities. One of the things you'll do during the first start of the game is to research a technology. Science is used to research new technologies that unlock new things for your civilization, such as new buildings, units, and so on. You can find the technologies that can be unlocked throughout the game by opening the technology tree here. Each technology unlocks different things, each of them has different science costs, and each of them has different prerequisites as well. I won't be going over all of the technologies as there's quite a lot, but you can hover your cursor over each technology and each unlockable item to see a more detailed description of each. As an example, the archery technology unlocks archer units for your civilization, which are range units. It costs 50 science to research this technology, and requires animal husbandry to be researched first as indicated by the dotted lines connecting them. I'd like to note that the icons can also help tell their type. For example, these green icons are units, these hexagons are districts, and these icons with a house-shaped background are buildings, and so on. I'd also like to point out that except for the first column, there's a way to boost the progress of each technology as indicated here by the text at the bottom of each. When a technology boost is activated by achieving the indicated task, for instance, for archery, it's to kill a unit with a slinger, 50% of the required science to research the technology will be automatically provided. Once you've decided on a technology, you can click on it. And here on the upper left side of the main screen, you'll see how many turns it will take to finish researching the technology. As mentioned earlier, science victory is one way to win the game. Most of what you need for a science victory are technologies that can be found here in the rightmost side of the tech tree. And the other steps will be projects that you'll need to complete, but we'll explain those in a later chapter. Culture mostly works the same way as science, with the difference that it's used to unlock civics. Civics work the same way as technologies. They unlock different things such as policies, government types, and other unique buildings as well. However, during the first turn of the game, you won't get a choice of which civic to unlock, as it will always default to the Code of Laws. Culture can also be used for other things, but we'll explain those when they become relevant. Faith is mainly used when aiming for a religion victory. It is used to create religious units, but can be used to purchase other things as well in some cases. The big number shown here indicates the amount of faith we have stockpiled, and the smaller number indicates our faith income every turn. Gold, as you can probably imagine, is used to purchase a variety of things and can be used when trading with other civilizations as well. I won't be able to explain everything we can use gold for, but we should be able to tackle a few of them as we go through the tutorial. There are also special resources that can be found all over the map represented by these icons. There are several types of special resources. Bonus resources, for instance, simply provide additional resources to a tile that can be harvested as normal, which we will explain in a bit. There are also strategic and luxury resources, both of which we'll explain further later when they become relevant. One of the ways to increase your resource income is to harvest them from tiles where they are available. This is where a city's population comes in. The number beside the city's name here represents the number of population available in the city, not counting the one in the city center. In this scenario, we currently have 1. By clicking on the Manage Citizens button here on the lower right side of the screen, on the city summary, we'll see which tile the available population is currently working on. In this case, it's working on this tile, which is providing us an additional 2 food income and 1 production income. We can click on a different tile to change a population's designation, and take note that you can also click one of the city's income here to automatically have your population focus on a specific resource. As mentioned earlier, food is used to grow and maintain a city's population. Each population consumes 2 food, with the rest of a city's food income allocated to a city's population growth. Here, at the bottom of the screen, we'll see the number of turns it will take until we get a new population. You'll also find this information here on the left side of a city's name, so you won't have to keep clicking on cities to check. An important aspect of a city that relates to population is housing. You can find the city's current housing here in the city's summary. This dictates the maximum number of population that your city can have before you start suffering penalties. In this example, we currently have 1 population out of a maximum 6. Once the limit is reached or exceeded, the city's population growth will significantly slow down or even stop. The main way of increasing a city's housing limit is by constructing districts and buildings that provide additional housing. As an example, the Greenery building, which can be unlocked by researching the pottery technology, increases a city's housing limit by 2. Another important aspect that relates to population are amenities. Amenities represent the contentment of a city's population. Having a positive number of amenities will increase non-food incomes, while having a negative number will decrease them and increase the chances of your units rebelling against you. The more population a city has, the more amenities are required to keep a positive number. Amenities can be acquired in different ways such as specific buildings, policies, religion, and so on. But one of the main ways is to acquire luxury resources. These are special resources that, like bonus resources, can be found scattered across the map. They provide 1 amenity to 4 cities, with some providing amenities to 6 cities. Take note that you can only gain amenities from a luxury resource the first time you harvest it. Any duplicates will no longer provide amenities, but can be traded to other civilizations, which we will explain in a later chapter. To gain luxury resources, they need to be within the borders of your city, and their occupied tile needs to be improved by a builder. Builders are units that provide improvements to tiles to increase their resource yields and harvest special resources. To improve a tile, you need to have already researched the technology that unlocks a tile's corresponding improvement. For example, the mining technology unlocks the mine improvement that can be built on hills or tiles with specific resources such as jades, to increase the tile's production by 1, and, as mentioned, to harvest the specific resource. To build an improvement, you'll need to move your builder to the space you want to improve, and the valid improvement option will appear here. Take note that builders have a limit to the number of improvements they can build, after which they will disappear. For example, our current builder can only build 3 improvements. You can improve water tiles with builders as well, but it will require you to unlock the sailing technology first. Another thing you'll do during the first turn of the game, if you've already found a city, is to choose something for your city to produce. By clicking on the right side of the city's name, the production panel will open. Here, you'll find the different available items, and in future turns, other items that have been unlocked by technologies already researched. As mentioned earlier, production is the resource utilized for this function. You can hover your cursor over each item to see what functions and yields they provide, as well as their production cost. On the right side of each item, you'll find the number of turns it will take to construct them with your current amount of production. As you can probably guess, having a higher production income will complete constructions faster. There are several types of items we can build through this process. Districts are a way to specialize tiles in producing a specific resource and provide related functions. As an example, the campus district, which can be unlocked with the writing technology, specializes in science production. Districts are also where a huge majority of buildings can be constructed. Buildings are where the majority of increased city incomes and yields are acquired. Some buildings do not require a district like the granary, but some do, like for instance, the library, which requires a campus district. This is where the importance of the specializations of districts comes to play. For example, if you're aiming for a science victory, which as you can probably imagine will require a lot of science, having a campus early and in each one of your cities is incredibly beneficial, so you can immediately build any science-related buildings you unlock. Each district type can only be built once in each city, and you can only build a new district for every 3 population a city has. Districts may also have a restriction on where you are allowed to build them. For instance, the harbor district can only be built on a water tile that is adjacent to land. This is another thing to consider when choosing locations for a new city. For example, if you plan on building a campus in the new city, make sure it will have the required terrain of a campus. Wonders are unique buildings that require their own tile and provide a vast number of yields and benefits. Wonders are unique in that only one of each may exist in the entire game. For example, if we were able to build the Hanging Gardens, no other player can build it for the rest of the game. So, building wonders is kind of like a race. When constructing a wonder, and another civilization was able to complete it first, your construction will be cancelled, but you'll get a percentage of spent production back as a refund. As always, you can hover your cursor over each wonder to see what they provide, and any requirements they may have. Like districts, they can also have terrain restrictions. For example, the Hanging Gardens must be built adjacent to a river. If an item on the production panel is grayed out, this means you aren't able to build it at the moment. You can hover your cursor over them to see what prerequisites you are currently missing. For example, as mentioned earlier, the Hanging Gardens must be built adjacent to a river. If your cities don't have any rivers, you won't be able to construct this wonder. Projects are tasks that can be accomplished in cities that provide temporary and permanent benefits. They are unlocked by researching specific technologies or constructing specific buildings. As an example, the Campus Research Grant Project becomes available once we've been able to build a campus district, and will provide additional science and great scientist points, which we'll explain later, once it has been completed. Take note that most projects can be accomplished multiple times. I'd also like to remind that some of the steps required for a science victory are projects that you'll need to complete in this way. Units are also trained from this panel. There are different types of units for different purposes, such as the builder, which we've already explained. We'll explain the other unit types once they become relevant. Take note that only one item can be constructed at a time, but you can queue multiple items by clicking here and clicking on the multiple items you want in the order you'd like them to be built. Aside from using production to construct items over time, you can also purchase buildings and units with gold and sometimes with faith so that they'll immediately be available. Cities, when found, start with only a few hexes within their borders, but over time, they will accrue new tiles which are randomly chosen, the speed of which depends on your culture income. By clicking on the Manage Citizens button, we'll see here in purple the next tile that will be acquired and how many turns until that happens. However, by clicking on the Purchase Tiles button here, you can also purchase them with gold. As mentioned earlier, settlers are the units needed to found new cities. They are trained in cities like any other units. However, for every settler you train, one population from the city will be deducted. At the start of the game, most of the world won't be visible, obstructed by fog. To view the rest of the world and see what's around you, you'll need units to move around and explore. Any unit can be utilized for this, but the recon type units, a scout in our current scenario, specialize in it by being able to move around faster. Units in the game move around by spending movement points, with each hex depending on its terrain type having different movement costs to move into. You can hover your cursor over hexes to see a detailed description of the terrain, including the movement cost to move into the tile. When clicking a unit, you'll see a border that indicates the farthest the unit can move to in the turn. You can also click tiles that are farther, but it may take the unit several turns to reach, indicated by the number on the space when clicking it. Aside from a tile's terrain type, some map features can also affect movement costs. For instance, crossing a river will increase the movement's cost, and some tiles like mountains are impassable, which means units will have to move around it to be able to pass through. Instead of dictating where a unit will move every turn, you can instead click here and this ability to allow a unit to explore on its own. But don't worry, as you'll always receive notifications if they encounter anything notable. When exploring, there are several things you should be on the lookout for. Tribal villages provide a small random bonus when visited by one of your units. The bonus can be additional resources, units, technology boosts, and so on. Once you've claimed the bonus, the tribal village disappears. Barbarians are hostile units that don't align with anyone. Their units will move around the map looking for other units to kill and cities to pillage. They come from outposts, such as this one, that constantly spawns units over time. These outposts pop up randomly all over the world throughout the game, and are always guarded by an anti-cavalry unit, in this case a spearman. If a barbarian outpost is empty, you can enter the occupied tile to remove the outpost, stop barbarians from spawning in the area, and earn gold as a reward. Units that spawn from barbarian outposts also get stronger over time. They also spawn different units depending on their location. Barbarian outposts in coastal spaces will spawn naval units, and outposts near a horse resource will spawn cavalry units. Otherwise, they'll spawn regular land units. When exploring, one thing you should be on the lookout for are areas that will be good to found a new city in. There are several factors to consider in this regard, some of which we've already mentioned. For other examples, areas that are rich in basic resources are good spots, as a huge income of food and production will help grow a city faster. Additionally, scattered around the map are natural wonders that give tiles high and sometimes even unique yields. For example, here, we found the Great Barrier Reef Natural Wonder that provides bonus science yields. However, unfortunately, it looks like someone else already beat us to it. Another thing you should be looking for is luxury resource you don't have yet. As mentioned earlier, different luxury resources provide amenities to cities. Aside from luxury resources, you should also be on the lookout for strategic resources. These are special resources that are required for training higher level units. Take note that at the start of the game, strategic resources won't be visible. They require specific technologies to be researched before they reveal themselves. For example, once you've researched the bronze working technology, you'll be able to see which tiles have the iron resource. Another thing you should be looking for when exploring is city-states. These are entities that, while don't compete for victory, still grow culturally and technologically, and can provide benefits to civilizations. We'll explain city-states further when we get to diplomacy and trading. The last thing in terms of exploration is other civilizations. These are your opponents who are also racing to achieve a victory condition. However, through diplomacy and trading, you can have a good relationship with them to equally gain benefits, or you can war with them and just take what you want. Before we move on, I'd like to mention that aside from exploring land areas, you can also explore water areas to see other islands and continents. However, to do this, you'll first need to research a few technologies. With the shipbuilding technology, your land units can embark on coastal spaces. With the sailing technology, you'll be able to build naval units. With the cartography technology, you'll be able to navigate through ocean spaces, which are these spaces represented by a shade of blue darker than those of coastal spaces. As mentioned earlier, during the game, you'll meet city-states and other civilizations you can interact with in different ways. While there are some negative interaction options you can choose to do, such as conquering, we'll first focus on some positive interactions that are available. Let's first explain city-states. The most important thing when attempting to gain benefits from a city-state is envoys. Here, on the upper left side of the screen, we'll find the current number of envoys we have. Envoys, when sent to city-states, gradually increase the benefits we earn from them. Envoys are naturally earned by accumulating influence points, which in turn are earned through your government type and policies, which we'll explain a bit later. By hovering our cursor here, we'll see how much influence we are earning per turn. By clicking on a city-state, a panel will show us a summary of this particular city-state. Here, we'll find the benefits this city-state will provide depending on the number of envoys we've sent. In this case, this particular city-state provides science-related benefits once we've sent 1, 3, and 6 envoys. Different city-states also have different unique benefits. For instance, Stockholm here provides additional Great People points, which we'll explain later, if we have 3 or more envoys sent to the city higher than other civilizations. Take note that if you are the first civilization to meet a city-state, you will immediately have 1 sent envoy to it. Aside from waiting for your influence to accumulate to receive an envoy, city-states also provide quests here. When accomplished, you will gain an envoy for the city-state. The first civilization to send 3 envoys to a city-state becomes its suzerain. And to maintain this status, you need to always have the most envoys sent to it. There can only be 1 suzerain for each city-state. If 2 or more civilizations have the same number of sent envoys, there is no suzerain. One advantage of being a city-state suzerain is it will always follow your diplomatic state with other civilizations. For example, since we are this city-state suzerain, if we were to go to war with a civilization, then they will go to war with them as well. In addition, by being this city-state suzerain, all of its resources are automatically exported to us. By checking our current resources here, we'll see that we have 2 truffle resources sent to us from Geneva. Lastly, as an option here, when we need them, we can choose to levy or borrow their military units for gold. Aside from city-states, we can also interact with other civilizations we've met. By clicking on a civilization leader here on the upper right side of the screen, we'll be presented with information we currently know about them and some interaction options. Gossip refers to information you've gained about the civilization. These can be their relationship with other civilizations, trades they've made, technologies they've researched, and so on. By clicking here, you'll find all of the gossip about the civilization you've learned so far. The amount and type of gossip you'll receive depends on your access level to the civilization. There are 5 levels of access, and you increase your access level by progressing your relationship with the civilization. For example, by agreeing to an alliance with them. Agendas, on the other hand, represent a civilization's personality and how they will react toward certain things. Each civilization has 2 agendas. One will be revealed once you meet them, and one can be discovered through espionage, which we'll explain in a bit. Aside from their descriptions, down here are interaction options. You can hover your cursor over each option to see a brief description of each, so I won't be going over some of these anymore. The first option progresses your relationship with the civilization, usually with the goal of creating an alliance. Take note that you can only offer other civilizations an alliance once you unlock the Civil Service Civic. When in an alliance with another civilization, you'll have open borders, meaning units from either side can pass through each other's cities. You'll have shared visibility, which means all of your cities and units will be revealed to each other. You can have different beneficial agreements, trades and deals are easier to make, and you cannot take hostile actions against each other. I'd also like to note that alliances are not permanent and expire after 30 turns. If instead, you'd rather be hostile against a civilization, declaring war is the best way to do so. Being in a war against another civilization means you can attack each other's units and take over or destroy each other's cities. When declaring war with another civilization, if relevant to your playstyle, one thing to check is the war's possible warmongering penalty. This penalty negatively affects your relationship with other civilizations. During the earlier eras of the game, where war is pretty much commonplace, going to war doesn't incur as many penalties. However, during the later eras of the game, where going to war is at the very least frowned upon, warmongering penalties will be higher. One way to mitigate warmongering penalties is to make sure you have casus belli against a civilization before declaring war against them. Casus belli represents a justified reason to go to war. For example, you'll gain a casus belli against a civilization if they keep building cities and expanding in areas close to your territories. If you want to go to war with a civilization and you currently have no casus belli against them, the easiest way to gain one is by denouncing them here. Denouncing a civilization means openly declaring hostility toward them. 5 turns after denouncing a civilization will allow you to declare war upon them with less warmongering penalties. Take note that you cannot denounce friends and allies. When involved in a war, your citizens will eventually grow tired and weary. This will manifest as negative amenities. And as mentioned earlier, negative amenities come with penalties in incomes and, in severe cases, may cause your units to rebel against you. So it's important to make sure you have a high number of amenities before going to war. War can end in 2 ways. It can end when an entire civilization involved in the war is eliminated from the map, or it can end through a deal, which we'll explain in a bit. Whoever's winning the war or has the advantage can leverage their opponent to offer more stuff when trying to make a deal to end the war. Other interaction options available on this screen are making deals and demands. Deals are a way to trade gold, resources, and so on with other civilizations, while demands are, well, a way to just try to take things from them. But of course, demands will only work if you have some leverage over the other civilization. As mentioned earlier, duplicate luxury resources no longer provide amenities, so this is one way to benefit from any excess, by trading them for either gold, other luxury resources you don't have yet, or any other available option as long as the other civilization accepts. Take note that a trade of luxury resources is not permanent and only lasts 30 turns. Delegations and embassies, the latter of which can be unlocked with a diplomatic service civic, can be sent to other civilizations for a cost to improve relations and increase visibility. Take note that if your relationship with a civilization is worse than neutral, they will not accept any offers of delegations and embassies and will remove pre-existing ones. Another way of interacting and gaining benefits from cities and city-states is by creating trade routes. Through many different ways, your civilization will gain a trade capacity as represented here. In this case, we unlocked the foreign trade civic, which gave us our first trade capacity. Your trade capacity determines how many traders you're allowed to have. Traders are units that can be produced from cities and are used to create and utilize trade routes for different resource benefits. When creating a trade route, traders will start at an origin city of your choice and will travel to a destination city, which will dictate the benefits you'll receive. You can choose a trader's origin city by clicking on the trader and clicking the transfer to another city button here. There are 2 types of trade routes, domestic and international. Domestic trade routes are those made between 2 of your cities. A domestic trade route only provides benefits to the trader's origin city. An international trade route, on the other hand, is a trade route made between one of your cities and either a city-state or a city of another civilization. International trade routes provide the resource yields to the entire civilization. Another benefit of creating international trade routes is that they also serve as a sort of social connection. They are a way to acquire gossip about another civilization, and they boost your tourism as well, which we will explain in a later chapter. Once a trade route has been started, the trader will travel to the destination city and then goes back to the origin city. You will receive the resource yields every turn in this process, after which you can start another trade route either to a different city or to the same one. The first time a trader travels to a destination city, it will create a road. Tiles with roads have a decreased movement cost for all units. Take note that traders can't defend themselves, so when choosing trade routes, make sure that the paths are either safe or well guarded by your military units. If an enemy military unit enters a space occupied by your trader, the trader will be destroyed, rewarding the enemy with gold. Espionage is another way of interacting, using air quotes here, with other civilizations. Once you unlock Diplomatic Service Civic, you'll be able to train your first spy in a city like any other unit. Spies can be sent to opposing non-ally cities to perform tasks such as increasing diplomatic visibility, stealing resources, stealing technology boosts, and so on. Here, when choosing a mission, you'll be presented with information about it. It will also take several turns to complete their assigned task. Spy missions can succeed or fail, and the chances of either happening can also be influenced by how much counter-spy systems are in place in the targeted city. Your spy can also be discovered regardless whether they succeed or fail the mission. As you can imagine, Having your spies discovered will incur some penalties, such as the target civilization gaining a casus belli against you. Once caught, spies will have a chance to escape. If unable to, they will be captured or killed. If a spy is captured, you can attempt to retrieve them by making a deal with its captor civilization. Unlike other units, they don't move around the map normally. Once you choose a city to send them to, they will travel on their own and will take several turns to reach their destination. We've explained how to start and end wars. Now let's explain how you fight in them. A lot of units that you can train in the game are military units. These are units designed to attack and destroy cities and other military units. Each military unit has its type, with each type having its unique trait. For example, ranged units like archers can attack enemy units at a longer distance. You start the game with a few options of military units you can train, but more will be available once you research more technologies. For example, the wheel technology will unlock the heavy chariot, which are heavy cavalry units. Some military units you'll find in the technology tree are upgraded versions of older units. For example, the crossbowmen are upgraded versions of archers. As you can see here, they are the same type, but these units are farther in the technology tree. Once unlocked, you can directly train these units as normal, but you can also upgrade old units already on the map at the cost of gold by bringing them to any of your cities and then clicking this upgrade button. As you unlock better military units through research, their costs go up as well, with some units needing special resources for them to be produced. As an example, the horseman units require you to have the horses resource. Special resources, used mainly for military units, are what we call strategic resources, and as mentioned earlier, a lot of these will only become available once a specific technology has been researched. Military units can also level up by gaining experience through fighting. Once they gain enough experience, you'll receive a notification that you can click to be directed to the leveled up unit. When units level up, you'll be given options of what skills you'd like for them to improve, and whichever you choose will unlock the next skill in the same column the next time they level up again. Take note that units in the game have maintenance costs in gold. These costs are automatically deducted from your gold income. By hovering our cursor here in our treasury, we'll see how much we are paying for the maintenance of our units. As units become more advanced, their maintenance costs get higher. If your treasury becomes empty while your gold income is negative, your units will automatically disband until your gold income becomes positive again. Combat in the game is pretty simple. By clicking on a military unit, you'll find their health, melee strength, and range strength as well for range units. To initiate combat between two units, simply click on a military unit and right-click on your preferred target. If your military unit can reach or is in range of your target, they will deal damage to the target's health equal to their melee strength. Take note that for melee battles, your units will also receive damage, which isn't the case when your ranged units attack. Before you confirm an attack, by hovering your cursor over your target, you'll be able to see the result of the battle. In this window, we'll also see any advantages and disadvantages that the involved units may have. One of the most common things that can affect battle results is the terrain. For example, heals will add a defense modifier of 3 to units defending in this terrain. I won't be going over all of the ways terrain can affect battles, but you can always hover your cursor over them to see their defense modifiers if they have any. If you think your opponents are planning to attack you, you can instead choose to fortify your units. This will have them stay in their current position and gain a defense bonus. Take note that for some military unit actions such as fortify, if you happen to change your mind and would like them to do something else, you can choose to cancel the action by clicking this button. Some military units are stronger against specific types. For example, anti-cavalry units are stronger against cavalry units. When planning on destroying or taking over opposing cities, siege units are preferable to use. To destroy or take over cities, you'll need to bring its city center's health down to 0. After which, you'll need a melee unit to enter the city center space. You'll then be given the option to either capture the city for it to become one of yours, or to raze it to erase it from the map. The last thing I'd like to note is that there are also naval military units that can be unlocked through technologies. These are what you use to fight in coastal and ocean areas. As mentioned earlier, achieving a religion victory is one of the ways to win the game. To do this, you'll need to establish a religion which you'll need to spread to different cities with religious units. Before creating or adapting a religion, once a civilization has accumulated 25 faith, they'll be able to found a pantheon, which provides some benefits depending on what you choose. While somewhat related to religion, pantheon benefits are permanent even after they've been replaced by a religion. To found a religion, first you'll need to acquire a great prophet. By clicking this button on the upper left side of the screen, you'll find all the great people types, the available great person for each type, and the ability of the available great people. The main way of acquiring a great person is by accumulating great people points, which are provided by different things such as buildings. For example, a great prophet specifically requires great prophet points, which we can gain by building a holy site district. Down here, you'll find the progress of each civilization in acquiring great people points. You can also instead purchase great people down here either with gold or faith. Sometimes, some restrictions won't allow us to recruit certain types of great people. For example, here, we can see that we can't recruit great admirals at the moment. By hovering our cursor here, we'll see the reason why. We'll explain later what the other great people do, but for now, we'll focus on the great prophet. Once you have a pantheon in place and have acquired a great prophet, you may send the great prophet to a holy site or to the Stonehenge Wonder, if you were able to build it, to found a religion. Once you've found a religion, you'll be able to name it, choose a symbol for it, and choose its beliefs. Beliefs are the benefits that a city will receive if they adopt a specific religion. At the founding of a religion, you can choose 2 beliefs. 2 additional beliefs can be acquired later on with apostles, which we'll explain in a bit. Take note that there's a limit to the number of religions that may be founded in a game. You can find this limit in the religion window here. Once you've found a religion, it's now time to spread it. By clicking on a city, here on the city summary, you'll find how many of its citizens have been converted. Once more than 50% of a city's citizens have been converted to a single religion, the city will adopt the religion and gain its benefits. Religion is spread by converting citizens in different cities with either religious units or religious pressure. Cities of a specific religion spread their influence automatically to neighboring cities. This is what we call religious pressure. The strength of a city's religious pressure increases if it has a holy site, if it is the religion's holy city where the religion was founded, or if trade routes have been established. To view which cities are being influenced by which religions, you can click here and toggle the religion lens. Here, you'll see cities that are being affected by religious pressures, and how many turns it will take for the city to convert to a specific religion due to the pressures. A more active approach to spreading your religion is through religious units. Religious units can be unlocked by building specific buildings. For example, you unlock missionaries by building a shrine. Once religious units become available, you can purchase them in cities with faith here. Unlike most units, religious units can move more freely around the map. They can enter city borders even if you're not friends with the city's owner, and they cannot be attacked by military units. However, some religious units, like apostles, can attack other religious units. Take note that during a theological combat, the winner will increase the religious pressure of their religion to nearby cities, while the loser will lose pressure. Religious units have a spread religion action which you can activate in cities to automatically convert a certain number of citizens and decrease pressure from other religions to the city. Religious units are limited to a specific number of spread religion actions. For example, currently, our missionaries can perform the action 3 times. Once depleted, the religious unit disappears. Tourism, which can be found here on the upper left side of the screen, is the primary statistic required for a cultural victory. By going to the Victory panel and Culture tab, we'll see how many tourists we need to acquire to achieve this victory. To achieve a culture victory, we need to attract a higher number of total visiting tourists than the highest of any other civilization's domestic tourists. For example, in this scenario, one of the civilizations we haven't met has 16 domestic tourists, which means we currently need 17 visiting tourists to achieve a culture victory. There are 2 kinds of tourists. Domestic tourists, as mentioned, increase the amount of visiting tourists other civilizations have to accumulate to achieve a cultural victory. Domestic tourists can be acquired by simply increasing your culture income. Foreign tourists, on the other hand, are other civilizations' tourists that we've attracted due to our tourism output. Like any other statistic, tourism can be acquired from different sources. Great works are a good way to earn a lot of tourism. Great works can be acquired from great people such as great writers, artists, and musicians. However, you'll need a location where they can create and store a great work. As an example, the amphitheater building provides 2 slots for great works of writing. Once you've acquired one of these great people, by clicking on them, any location where they can create their great work will be highlighted. And by clicking this button on the upper left side of the screen, you'll find the available slots and your acquired great works if there are any. Aside from great works, there are also artifacts and relics which also generate tourism. Artifacts are gained from antiquity sites which can be revealed by completing the Natural History Civic. To harvest artifacts from antiquity sites, you'll need an archaeologist unit which can be unlocked by constructing an archaeological museum. Archaeological museums will also be used to store artifacts. Take note that for each archaeological museum you construct, you can train 1 archaeologist. And the number of antiquity sites that an archaeologist can dig up depends on the number of available slots in their respective archaeological museum. Relics, on the other hand, can be gained when apostles that have gained the martyr ability through leveling up die in a theological combat. Like great works and artifacts, relics must also be placed in relevant buildings that can store them to gain tourism and other yields. As an example, the Mont Saint-Michel Wonder, when built, provides 2 relic slots. Take note that some locations that store great works, artifacts, and relics provide bonus yields when equipped with items that fit a certain theme. For example, the Archaeological Museum doubles its tourism output if the displayed artifacts are from the same era but from different civilizations. So, it will be beneficial to always organize your displayed items properly. Before we move on, I'd also like to point out that wonders naturally generate tourism as well. The last thing we need to explain are governments and policies. Here on the upper left side of the screen, you can click this button to open the government window. Here, you'll find your current government and the policies you have in place. Both of these features provide ongoing benefits for your civilization. You can change your government and policies whenever you want by paying gold. However, you do get a chance to change them for free every time a new civic has been researched. New government types and new policies can also be unlocked by researching specific civics. For example, the Political Philosophy Civic unlocks 3 new government types and 2 policies. Your government type will also determine how many policies and what types you can have active. For example, our current government type, Chiefdom, allows 1 military policy and 1 economic policy. There are 4 types of policies: military, economic, diplomatic, and wildcard, and they can only be slotted to policy slots of the same type. Take note that wildcard policy slots are different in that they can hold any type of policy. Before starting a game, you can choose which civilization and leader you'd like to play as. Each option provides different unique abilities. I won't be going over all of them as there's quite a lot, but as an example, Pericles of Greece gains additional culture from city-states you are the suzerain of. They have an extra wildcard policy slot for any government type. They have hoplites, which are military units unique to them, and they have the Acropolis, a district unique to them as well. As mentioned earlier, this isn't a fully comprehensive tutorial. There are a lot of aspects of the game that I either simply missed or chose to omit from this tutorial, such as things that get unlocked in later eras. You can always hover your cursor over most icons to see a brief description, and if you find yourself with a question, the game comes with an encyclopedia that can be accessed here on the upper right side of the screen. Here, you can simply search for terms you encounter to get detailed explanations. Regardless, the information provided should be enough for you to be able to start a game knowing what you can do, what you'd like to do, and how you will go about doing those things. Thanks for watching.